Howdy. Want to see a real ghost town? I bet you do. Welcome to Rhyolite, Nevada. That's right, Rhyolite, Nevada. And what started as a two-tent mining camp in 1905, just 6 months later, swelled to a population of 5,000 people for the gold boom that was going on in this area. It's amazing how fast these towns can just spring up just like that. But as you know, with a lot of ghost towns, poof, it's boom and then bust just about as quickly as it happens. Basically in 1914, the lights literally went out in Rhyolite after the mining ore ran out, after the San Francisco earthquake of 1906, the ensuing bank panic in 1907. Everything, for the most part, shut down, and Rhyolite just became a piece of history in the Old West. But let's take a look at it. When you first come into Rhyolite, you'll see a few buildings, the old Mercantile building, the old school, a couple other buildings, and we'll get to those. But then you come up to the most opulent buildings of them all, the Cook Bank building. And this building actually is one of the most filmed and photographed ghost town buildings actually in the America West. And the Cook brothers actually came late to the party. The building was built and finished in 1907, and it was pretty opulent for its time, and not only for the area but for the whole region. It consisted of marble flooring, mahogany, wood, railings. It had post office in the basement. It had electricity. It had indoor plumbing. As I said, it was completed in 1907, and then just a few months later, is when the bank panic, nationwide bank panic, occurred. Otherwise known as the what was that called? The Knickerbocker. What was it? Knickerbocker crisis, something like that. And so by 1910, this building was shut down. All the fixtures were auctioned off, and it just became dust in history, you know. And it's amazing to see these old buildings like this. They can be so opulent and just get constructed so quickly. And then just like everything else, poof, it goes bust along with everything else. I guess that's the fickle nature of mining, isn't it? But anyway, let's go take a look at the Mercantile building and the other buildings, and then we'll go up the street. The next building on our list, or what's left of it, is the Overbury building. John Overbury was actually from New Jersey. He came to Nevada in 1902 to follow all the boom towns springing up in Nevada, make his money. And this building he started building in 1907. It was originally going to be a two-story building, but then when John Cook started building his three-story building, the bank, well, John Overbury wasn't going to be undone, so he built a three-story building as well. And it was a general purpose building. It was the largest stone building in Rhyolite, and it was fully equipped with fireproof shutters. Think about that in 1906, 1907. An automatic fire suppression system, and it had private bathrooms as well. And as a general purpose building, it also had a stock brokerage firm. It had the First National Bank of Rhyolite, a dentist and attorney's offices. So kind of competition to John Cook over there. But then alas, just like everything else in Rhyolite, in 1910 it was shut down, and 1924, it basically was dismantled. Not laughing because it's funny, it's just interesting to see all this. Springs up and then bam. Now across the street, this was the Merco Tile building, also known as the Porter building. Now these guys were very successful. Hiram and Lyman. Their business was mercantile. They moved from mining camp to mining camp, and they eventually had quote-unquote stores in Johannesburg, in California, Ballarat, over in the Panamint Range on the other side of Death Valley, just over the hill here in Beatty, and then of course this one here in Rhyolite. They originally bought a lot here on Main Street in 1905, operated out of canvas tent, and then they constructed their building. They had a 3-day sale, dances and everything, and everything was hunky-dory until what year? That's right, 1910. 1910, everything stopped. You can kind of picture and hear all the business transacting here in this building. Hiram and Liam Porter, how about that? Let's go take a look at the school. And this is a story, the school. And when you think of schools in those days, you probably think of one-room schoolhouses, wooden building with a bell and all that sort of stuff. Well, that was the case when the school first started, but not for long. This is actually the second schoolhouse built in Rhyolite. The first one was a small wooden building. That was a single room. That one was built in February of '06, and it opened with 26 students. How about that? One teacher, and then a month later there were 46 students, and then by October of that year there were 74 students, and still the one same teacher. The student body kept growing rapidly, and 1 year after opening there were 225 additional teachers, and understandably, as the story goes, the teacher came down with a nervous breakdown, just having to try and deal with all those kids in a cramped schoolhouse. So in 1907, a $20,000 bond was passed to build a new schoolhouse, and here it is. It has 3 classrooms and a large hallway on the bottom floor. The second floor had 1 classroom and an auditorium, and there was a cupola and a bell. It opened in January of 1909, but closed in 1911 due to the decline of the mines and loss of the students as the families all moved away. And it cost $20,000 to build it, but here's an interesting tidbit. The town of Rhyolite/Beatty voted in 1906 or 7 to put a $20,000 bond, so in order to be able to pay to build the building. And it wasn't until 1978 that bond was finally paid off by the town of Beatty down the hill. Let's go take a look up the street. So what's the biggest thing you think, the biggest deal that could happen to a town like this in its early beginnings? Well, that'd be a railroad. So Rhyolite was such a big deal in its day. In 1906, the Las Vegas and Tonopah Railroad started building tracks here from Las Vegas. They started doing 1 mile a day of track laid. They finally got up to 2 miles a day. And then they got everything finished And then by December of 1906, the first 100 passengers disembarked from the train getting into Rhyolite. Then the railroad started building a depot, and here it is right here. And just like a lot of the other buildings, they had perfect timing. Started building it in December of 1907. In today's dollars, it cost the equivalent of $3.8 million. It was built in the Mission Revival style. And by the time the depot was finished in 1908, more people were now leaving Rhyolite than were coming in. And so the depot hung on for a little bit, and then finally closed its doors. There was a little bit of a try at reviving it with some other businesses, like a museum, a dance hall, a casino. That didn't last long. It finally shut down, and then subsequently the property changed hands a number of times until a lady again opened it up as a tourist destination with a museum in it, and then that finally closed in the 1960s. Well, there it sat, and then the town of Beatty wanted to preserve it as much as they could with the hopes of future preservation, so they actually installed a new roof. Now that's not a historically accurate roof. You can picture the Mission Revival type of building as having tile roofs, much like the one over at Kelso Depot in the Mojave Desert. I'll see if I have a picture of that. But here it sits today. There's hope that it can be revived and turned into something. But right now, it's just here, and you can look at it for memories. So this has been a really chopped up and truncated history of Rhyolite. It's really fascinating to look at the history and even look at the old pictures of Rhyolite. So if you have a chance sometime, just go ahead and do a search and look for Rhyolite, Nevada, and you'll find a lot more history than what I've given you. And probably you'll find a lot of inaccuracies in what I've told you, because, well, I can't remember everything, you know. So anyway, that's it from Rhyolite, Nevada. Ghost town, one of the most preserved, one of the most photographed and filmed ghost towns in the American West. If you get a chance to come up here, it's not too far from Las Vegas. Maybe about 2 hours, 2.5 hours up Highway 95 into Beatty, and then turn left, and it's just about 3 miles outside of Beatty, Nevada. All right, Rhyolite, Nevada. And wherever it is we're going next, I don't know, but stay tuned. Hey, guess what? I found a place on the way to wherever it is I'm going, which is I don't know where, that we can look at. You want to take a look at it?